Attitude is more than just a feeling or a mood. It's the way you choose to face each moment, the lens through which you see the world and yourself. What you think, how you react, and the mindset you bring into every situation shape the course of your life more than any outside circumstance. This isn't about pretending everything is perfect or ignoring problems. It's about owning your power to respond differently, to choose strength over doubt, hope over fear. When you learn to take control of your attitude, you open the door to real change. Challenges won't disappear, but they won't control you either. You'll find new ways to grow, new reasons to keep going, and clearer paths to your goals. This isn't just theory or empty talk. It's practical, everyday work that builds resilience and success step by step. In the next chapters, you'll discover how to build this kind of attitude. You'll learn to take full responsibility for your life, expect growth every day, and practice gratitude, even when things feel unfair. You'll see why the words you speak matter, how to focus on what truly counts, and why the company you keep influences your mindset. You'll find out how to turn failures into lessons, act with discipline when motivation fades, and push beyond fear with small daily risks. Finally, you'll explore how to live each day with clear purpose and action. This journey is about more than just thinking positively. It's about making attitude a tool for real progress. By the time you finish, you'll have practical steps and insights to shift how you live, work, and relate to the world. This is your chance to take control of what matters most, your mindset, and build the life you want one day at a time. Chapter 1. Choose to take full responsibility for your life. Every part of your life changes the moment you choose to take full responsibility for it. That one decision marks the beginning of personal freedom. It doesn't happen when your job gets better or when someone finally treats you right. It doesn't begin when the economy changes or when you get a lucky break. It begins when you stop waiting and start owning everything about your life, your choices, your reactions, your habits, your results. There is a line in the mind that separates people who live as victims from those who live with strength. That line is responsibility. The day you cross it, you take your power back. It is easy to point fingers. It's simple to say you had bad parents, or unfair bosses, or terrible luck. That story will get sympathy, but it won't change your life. People will nod and agree that you've had it hard. But the truth is, sympathy doesn't build character. Excuses don't create growth. You can either defend your limitations or you can outgrow them, but you cannot do both. Responsibility is not about blame. It's not about fault. You are not at fault for everything that happened to you, but you are responsible for what you do with it. You are responsible for what comes next. That distinction matters. Blame looks backward. Responsibility looks forward. Blame keeps you stuck in the past. Responsibility frees you to build the future. The world will always have chaos, problems, people who don't treat you fairly. But if you wait for the world to change before you feel better, you'll wait your whole life. Responsibility says, even if it wasn't my fault, it's still my life, and I'm not giving anyone else control over it. The moment you say, I own this, even when it's uncomfortable, something shifts in you. You stop hoping, you stop blaming, you start doing. You become the kind of person who no longer waits for better circumstances. You become the person who creates them, and that is a far more powerful place to live from. Most people live their lives reacting. They react to pressure, they react to pain, they react to disappointment. Their attitude changes with their environment, but that's not strength. Strength is deciding how you will show up, no matter what happens around you. Strength is choosing your attitude before the world gives you a reason. Strength is saying, I will respond in a way that makes me proud, regardless of what others do. Responsibility isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about waking up and asking yourself, what can I do today to move forward? What can I control right now? How can I respond better this time? These are the questions that shift your life. These are the questions that build a solid foundation from the inside out. You don't control everything. You don't control the economy. You don't control how people treat you. You don't control the past, but you control your response. You control your habits. You control the effort you give. You control your thoughts. You control what you feed your mind. You control whether you complain or create. And those choices add up, day after day. They shape who you become. Taking responsibility means looking in the mirror without judgment. It means being honest about where you've settled, where you've made excuses, where you've given your power away. It means saying, maybe I've tolerated too much. It means saying, I've avoided the hard work. It means saying, I've been waiting for someone else to fix this, and that ends today. That level of truth can be uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Nothing changes until you're honest with yourself. The strongest people you know weren't born strong. They made hard decisions in quiet moments. They decided to take ownership of their lives even when it felt easier to blame someone else. They showed up when it was inconvenient. They kept going when it was discouraging. They didn't feel like it, but they did it anyway. That's what separates growth from stagnation. If you want real change, you have to stop outsourcing your happiness. You have to stop waiting for someone else to show up with permission or approval or support. If it's your life, it's your job. If it matters to you, make it your responsibility. No one else will fight for your dreams. No one else will protect your peace. That's your job. And when you own that fully, everything begins to shift. When you stop waiting for others to understand you, when you stop expecting people to validate you, when you stop looking for circumstances to align perfectly before you take action, you become powerful, you become clear, you stop needing and start creating. You stop hesitating and start living. This doesn't mean life will get easier. In fact, it often gets harder. Taking responsibility forces you to let go of comfort. It forces you to stop blaming and start building. It's easier to say you were wronged. It's harder to say, now what can I do about it? But that second question, that's where growth begins. That's where character is forged. That's where the future is built. When you fully embrace responsibility, your energy shifts. You stop being drained by what you can't control, and you start being energized by what you can. You find strength in action. You stop waiting for courage, and you begin by acting with courage. You stop talking about change, and you start becoming the change. You stop becoming the change. You begin rewriting your story. Every complaint is a sign of where you've given your power away. Every time you say, I can't, what you're really saying is, I won't take control of this. Responsibility asks you to look at that without judgment, but with honesty. Responsibility says, if I'm not happy with this, then it's on me to do something about it. Start small. Start where you are. You don't need to overhaul your entire life in a day, but you do need to start. Take one area of your life, your health, your finances, your relationships, and ask what part of this is in my control. Then act on it. No matter how small the step is, take it. Responsibility lives in the small decisions just as much as the big ones. When you choose to drink water instead of soda, that's responsibility. When you choose to walk instead of scroll, that's responsibility. When you choose to have a tough conversation instead of avoiding it, that's responsibility. Every time you act with intention, you are reinforcing the idea that you are in charge of your life. It's not about achieving perfection, it's about direction. Responsibility isn't a one-time declaration, it's a daily decision. It's a quiet commitment made in the morning when you don't feel like it. It's the choice to show up when no one is watching. It's the willingness to learn from your mistakes without using them as a reason to quit. It's the ability to look back without shame and look forward with clarity. You will slip, you will fall short, you will have moments where the old patterns sneak back in, but responsibility means you get back up and realign. It means you don't use failure as a reason to stop. You use it as feedback to keep going. This is your life. You are the author. If something in your story doesn't sit right with you, rewrite it. If a chapter needs to close, close it. If a pattern needs to break, break it. No one else will do it for you. They can support you, they can cheer for you, but only you can take the steps. Only you can make the choice. Only you can decide that enough is enough, and it's time to take your power back. Most people are stuck not because they're incapable, but because they've convinced themselves they're powerless. They wait for permission, they wait for proof, but the truth is, you don't need to wait. You can start today. You can decide now. You can take one small action that says, this is my life and I'm going to live it on purpose. You don't have to know everything before you begin. You just have to stop hiding behind excuses. You just have to stop shrinking to fit the comfort of others. You just have to stop looking for reasons why it won't work and start finding ways to make it work. There is no perfect moment. There is only this moment, and what you do with it matters. Responsibility is hard, But it's also freedom. It frees you from waiting. It frees you from resentment. It frees you from the belief that your best days are behind you. It puts your future back in your hands. And once it's in your hands, you can shape it into anything you want. So ask yourself, what part of your life have you been avoiding? Where have you been blaming instead of building? Where have you been hoping instead of acting? The answers to those questions are not weaknesses. They are starting points. They are invitations to rise. No one owes you the life you dream of, but you owe it to yourself to go after it with everything you've got. You owe it to yourself to stop settling. You owe it to yourself to show up like you mean it. You owe it to yourself to live in alignment with who you truly are. Responsibility is not a punishment. It's a privilege. It's the path to peace. It's the way forward. It's how you reclaim your life and create something better. When you own your choices, you own your outcomes. When you take control, you create direction. When you stop making excuses, you start making progress. This is not about changing the world in one day. It's about changing your mindset today and letting that shift shape everything that follows. The real question is not, will life be hard? It's, will I show up with ownership no matter what? If the answer is yes, then nothing can truly stop you. Not failure, not rejection, not even fear. Because now you're not just surviving life, you're leading it, and that changes everything. Chapter 2. Build a mindset that expects growth every day. The quality of your life depends on how you train your mind to think each day. If your thoughts stay stuck in fear, doubt, or limitation, your life follows. But if your mindset is built to grow, to seek progress, to search for meaning in every experience, you begin to live with strength instead of struggle. Growth is not something that happens by accident. It is something you prepare your mind for, deliberately and daily. It begins with a decision to see yourself not as fixed or finished, but as someone in motion, someone who can learn, improve, and get better at being themselves. A growth mindset doesn't mean you're always achieving more. It means you're always becoming more. It's not about proving your worth. It's about building your character. That shift matters, because when you're focused on growth, you stop judging yourself by your results alone and start valuing your effort, your discipline, and your attitude. You start looking at challenges as training, not punishment. You stop fearing failure because you understand it's part of progress. Most people wait to feel motivated before they act, but those with a growth mindset understand that action creates momentum. They don't wait to feel ready. They move because they know movement builds clarity. They take steps forward, even when they're unsure, because they trust the process of learning as they go. This way of thinking protects them from being paralyzed by perfectionism or fear of mistakes. They don't expect to get everything right. They expect to improve through experience. You build a mindset of growth by asking yourself better questions. Not, why is this happening to me, but what can I learn from this? Not, what if I fail, but how can I use this to grow stronger? This kind of thinking trains your brain to search for solutions, not problems. It helps you move forward with resilience rather than retreat into doubt. When your thinking is focused on growth, your setbacks become fuel. You take what broke you and use it to build something better. A fixed mindset shuts you down. It tells you that where you are is where you'll stay. It convinces you that your weaknesses are permanent, that your situation can't be changed, that you've missed your chance. That's a lie that keeps people small. But when you expect growth, you challenge that voice. You say, I'm not done yet. You say, there's still more in me. You say, I'm willing to work for a better version of myself. That single decision gives you the strength to evolve. This mindset is built through daily repetition. It's not something you think once and then forget. It's something you wake up and reinforce through your actions. The books you read, the people you talk to, the habits you keep, the goals you set, these shape the way you think about what's possible. Every time you choose discomfort over convenience, every time you stretch instead of settling, every time you respond with curiosity instead of criticism, you're reinforcing a mindset that is ready to grow. Growth is not always loud. It's not always dramatic. Most of the time it's quiet. It happens in moments where no one is watching. It happens when you keep going, even though results haven't shown up yet. It happens when you choose to show up with integrity in small situations. The person who commits to growing every day knows that success doesn't show up overnight. It's something you meet through consistent effort. That mindset doesn't look for shortcuts. It looks for purpose. To build this mindset, start by changing how you speak to yourself. The words you repeat in your head either empower you or exhaust you. If you keep telling yourself you're stuck, you'll feel stuck. If you keep telling yourself you're not good enough, you'll stop trying. But if you remind yourself that you're learning, improving, and capable of change, your actions will begin to match that belief. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about being honest enough to say you haven't reached your potential yet, and you're committed to trying. Surrounding yourself with growth also matters. If you spend time with people who complain more than they act, who make excuses instead of progress, that mindset will rub off on you. But if you keep company with those who take ownership, who challenge themselves, who speak with clarity and live with purpose, your mind starts to adapt. You begin to think bigger, act bolder, and aim higher. Growth is contagious when you're around those who live it. Every obstacle you face can either weaken you or strengthen you. That choice is always available, and that choice is shaped by how you see yourself. A fixed mindset believes you can't handle it. A growth mindset believes you will figure it out, step by step, no matter how long it takes. And that belief keeps you going long after others quit. It pushes you to improve instead of complain. It challenges you to take responsibility for how you show up. Discipline feeds growth. When you make small decisions each day that align with your values, you start to build a structure of consistency in your life. And consistency trains your mind to trust that effort leads to results, even when it takes time. A mindset that expects growth understands that improvement is not just an outcome, it's a habit. The more you practice showing up, the more capable you become. There will be days when you feel stuck, days when nothing seems to be working, days when your doubts are louder than your beliefs. That's when your mindset matters most. That's when you remind yourself that progress isn't always obvious, but it's always possible. That's when you focus on the process, not just the prize. That's when you keep showing up, not because it's easy, but because you are committed to the kind of person you are becoming. Growth is not about reaching a final destination. It's about constantly refining who you are. It's about learning from experience and adjusting along the way. It's about developing patience with your progress and persistence in your efforts. That mindset brings peace because it takes the pressure off being perfect and puts the focus on being honest with yourself. No one is born with a growth mindset. It's something you create through intention and action. You build it every time you keep a promise to yourself. You build it every time you turn a setback into a lesson. You build it every time you stop waiting and start doing. This mindset becomes your foundation for every other goal you have in life. Because when you believe in growth, you don't give up on yourself. You learn, you adapt, and you rise. This is not about being positive all the time. It's about being committed all the time. It's about choosing to grow when it's hard. It's about believing in your ability to move forward, even when the path is unclear. When you live with this kind of mindset, you don't need guarantees. You just need the will to begin, the courage to continue, and the strength to improve one step at a time. That's what makes your mind your greatest tool, not because it knows everything, but because it's ready to learn anything. Chapter 3. Practice gratitude, even when life feels unfair. Gratitude becomes powerful when it is practiced not in moments of ease, but in moments of difficulty. Anyone can feel thankful when things are going well, but to train your mind to find meaning in hardship requires strength. This is not about pretending that pain doesn't exist. It is about choosing to see your experience through a wider lens. Life will not always be fair. Circumstances will change. Loss will come. People will hurt you. Doors will close. Yet even in the middle of all that, you still have a choice in how you think, how you respond, and how you interpret the moment you are in. To practice gratitude when life feels unfair is to reclaim control over your emotional state. It means refusing to let negativity take over your mindset. It means you stop giving your peace away to external events. When you can find one thing, just one thing to be grateful for in a dark moment, you create mental space to breathe. You interrupt the cycle of self-pity and shift your attention towards something that uplifts you. That shift doesn't erase your struggle, but it gives you the power to face it with a stronger heart. You will not feel grateful all the time. That's normal. Gratitude is not about constant emotional highs. It is about conscious awareness. It is the habit of recognizing that life, even in its brokenness, still offers moments worth noticing. When you begin to seek those moments, your thinking transforms. You stop measuring life by what's missing and begin to value what is present. You realize that even small things, a conversation, a sunrise, a quiet moment, can carry weight when you are open to seeing them. It's easy to become consumed by what went wrong. It's tempting to dwell on who let you down or what you didn't get. But if you stay there too long, your mind becomes clouded by bitterness. Gratitude clears that fog. It's a discipline that trains you to shift your energy from frustration to perspective. Every time you pause and give thanks, especially when it feels unnatural, you weaken the hold that resentment has on your life. Gratitude doesn't make you forget what hurt. It helps you remember what still matters. Practicing gratitude doesn't mean you accept injustice or deny the reality of hardship. It means you acknowledge the full range of life without becoming a victim to it. It's a mental decision to stop asking, "Why me?" and begin asking, "What can I do with this?" That question opens the door to emotional growth. It turns suffering into a tool for insight. It grounds you in the present, instead of dragging you backward into regrets or forward into anxiety. Every day gives you opportunities to practice this. When someone is unkind, you can be grateful that you've learned how not to treat others. When you lose something valuable, you can be thankful for the reminder to not take what you have for granted. When plans fall apart, you can choose to see the freedom that comes with a blank slate. None of this is easy, but it builds a deeper kind of wisdom, one rooted in strength, not circumstance. You don't have to force fake smiles or pretend everything is okay. You only need to find a sliver of light in the moment you're in. One thing that helps is writing down what you're thankful for every evening. Even on your worst days, there is something, a conversation, a meal, a safe place to rest, a lesson you didn't expect to learn. Writing it down anchors your thoughts. It helps you see your day through a more balanced lens where the difficult and the meaningful can exist side by side. Another way to build gratitude during unfair moments is to serve others. When you lift someone else, your own problems begin to shrink, not because they disappear, but because your focus expands. You start to realize that everyone is carrying something, everyone is facing their own version of hard, and yet people continue to love, to help, to show up. That realization can soften even the most hardened perspective. It reminds you that you are not alone. Your ability to practice gratitude is one of your greatest mental strengths. It keeps you from getting lost in hopelessness. It gives you the ability to recognize value, even in discomfort. Gratitude doesn't need things to be perfect. It just needs your willingness to pay attention. Pay attention to your thoughts. Pay attention to your breath. Pay attention to the people who have stayed. Pay attention to the strength you've built just by surviving. These are the places gratitude lives, and they are always within reach. You will not always be able to control the timing of your life. You won't be able to prevent pain or predict the future, but you can train yourself to see what is still good. That's not weakness, that is clarity, that is maturity, that is what makes you capable of navigating unfair moments without losing yourself to them. Gratitude gives you the inner structure to hold steady when the world feels unstable. People often confuse gratitude with comfort, but real gratitude is often uncomfortable because it requires you to see value in things you wish had never happened. It asks you to search for purpose in pain. It challenges you to release blame and instead build understanding. That takes courage, and that courage transforms how you experience life. This way of thinking becomes a foundation. The more you practice it, the more your mindset shifts from resistance to acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means seeing things clearly without judgment. Gratitude helps you do that. It helps you move through the day with eyes that are trained to look for lessons, not just wounds. It helps you wake up and say, "Today matters," even if the circumstances are far from what you hoped for. Gratitude teaches you that joy is not found in perfection. It is found in the ability to find meaning despite imperfection. The people who live with real peace are not the ones who had the easiest lives. They are the ones who learned how to value the small things, how to grow from disappointment, and how to find depth in the ordinary. Gratitude makes that possible. It turns daily life into something sacred, not because it's flawless, but because it's yours. You don't have to be grateful for the unfair parts of life, but you can be grateful in spite of them. That distinction gives you emotional freedom. It gives you the ability to move forward without being crushed by what's missing. It teaches you to look around and say, there's still something here for me to honor. There's still something I can do with this day. Gratitude is not passive. It's a choice, a skill, a habit, and like any skill, it gets stronger the more you use it. So even when life feels unfair, pause, breathe, find one thing to be thankful for, not because it will erase the struggle, but because it will remind you of your power to respond with strength. That is how you rise. That is how you grow. That is how you build a life that can hold both the weight of hardship and the light of grace. Chapter 4. Speak only words that strengthen your belief. The words you speak shape the way you see yourself and the world around you. They either build your self-belief or quietly tear it down. What you say out loud reinforces the thoughts that circulate in your mind. Speaking with strength is not about pretending or being overly positive. It is about choosing language that reminds you of your capability, even when you feel uncertain. It's about refusing to use your voice in ways that shrink your potential or damage your direction. When you talk about yourself, you are writing a script for your future. Every phrase becomes a small declaration of who you are and what you expect from life. Saying things like, "I'm not good enough," or "I always mess things up," slowly creates a belief system that limits your action. It plants a seed of doubt that grows over time. You might not even notice it at first, but repeated often enough, those words become your default narrative. And once you accept them as truth, you stop challenging them. Words carry energy. They influence not only how others see you, but more importantly, how you see yourself. This is why it is critical to speak with purpose. Every time you describe your struggles, make sure you also include your strength. If you're tired, you can say, "I'm tired, but I'm pushing through." If you're unsure, you can say, "I'm figuring it out." That shift is small but powerful. It helps your brain reframe the situation and opens you up to possibility instead of finality. The language you use doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. What matters is that it reflects your decision to believe in growth. Even in private conversations, how you talk about your challenges matters. If you speak with defeat, your mind listens and adapts. If you speak with belief, your mind begins to build confidence. This habit takes time, but the change it brings is lasting. Notice how often people talk themselves out of progress before they even begin. They say things like, "I could never do that," or "That's not me," or "I'm just not good with that stuff." These statements sound harmless, but they are walls. Each one cuts off a path before it has a chance to open. The goal is not to lie to yourself, but to stop feeding your fear with your own voice. Instead of saying, "I can't," practice saying, "I'm learning." Instead of saying, "I'm bad at this," say, "I'm getting better." Speak as someone who is growing, not someone who is finished. Sometimes people confuse honesty with negativity. They think that being real means stating every doubt, every fear, every shortcoming out loud. But being honest also means recognizing your effort, your improvement, and your progress. If you want to live with strength, speak in ways that support your progress. Speak in ways that allow space for change. You don't need to ignore your flaws, just don't build your identity around them. Your internal dialogue, the words you say when no one else is listening, is where this habit begins. Most people are not aware of how often they put themselves down in their thoughts. They criticize their appearance, their intelligence, their past decisions. But these thoughts, when spoken aloud, become part of your belief system. You have to interrupt them. You have to challenge the voice that tells you you're not enough, and replace it with one that reminds you of your growth, your effort, and your vision. One powerful practice is to repeat affirming statements throughout the day, not as empty phrases, but as anchors. You can say things like, "I handle pressure well," or "I am building the life I want," or "I am committed to becoming stronger." These kinds of statements guide your actions. They help you stay grounded when things feel uncertain. They train your mind to expect effort and improvement instead of failure and stagnation. Another habit that helps is paying attention to how you talk about your goals. Do you speak with certainty, or do you use language that creates distance? When you say, "I hope I can," or "I'll try," you leave room for hesitation. When you say, "I will," you give your mind a clear instruction. This clarity fuels commitment. Speak about your plans with clarity and direction. Say them out loud, write them down, own them. When talking to others, avoid the temptation to minimize yourself. Many people do this out of habit. They downplay their strengths, laugh off their ambitions, or speak as if they're unsure of their value. This creates a false sense of humility that doesn't serve anyone. You can be grounded and humble without weakening your voice. Speak with quiet confidence. Say what you believe without needing approval. Stand in your words. Let them reflect who you are becoming. Also, be cautious with humor that masks self-doubt. Joking about your own limitations can seem harmless, but over time it reinforces those ideas. There is nothing wrong with being light-hearted, but if your humor is always self-critical, it becomes a habit of putting yourself down. Instead, practice speaking about yourself in ways that reflect your inner respect. You don't have to brag. Just stop using your words to damage your own self-image. Be intentional with what you say during difficult moments. When you feel like giving up, the words you speak matter most. Saying "this is hard" is honest. Saying "I'm done" can become dangerous. You are allowed to express difficulty, but don't let that expression become a declaration of defeat. Use words that remind you that you are capable of moving forward, even when it feels uncomfortable. Speak with persistence, not pity. Another important part of this practice is to stop repeating stories from the past that no longer serve your future. You are not obligated to keep telling the same story about who hurt you, what went wrong, or how things didn't work out. You can acknowledge it without turning it into your identity. Choose to speak more about where you are going than where you've been. Let your words be driven by your vision, not your history. Surround yourself with people who reinforce this kind of language. Pay attention to how others talk about themselves and life. Words are contagious. If you spend time with people who speak with hope, clarity, and strength, that energy will influence you. If you spend time around constant negativity, it will slowly dull your voice. Choose your environment with care and contribute to it with conscious language. Speak with the discipline of someone who knows their words create momentum. When you wake up in the morning, start with words that energize you. When you end your day, reflect on something you handled well. Throughout the day, watch your tone, your vocabulary, and your focus. If you catch yourself saying something that weakens you, pause and correct it. This is not about perfection, it's about intention. Over time, this way of speaking becomes a foundation for belief. You begin to trust yourself more, not because everything is easy, but because your words remind you that you are always capable of growth. That trust becomes a quiet force behind your decisions, your habits, and your future. Speak like someone who is moving forward. Speak like someone who is building a better life. Speak like someone who refuses to tear themselves down. Every word is a choice. Make it one that strengthens who you are becoming. Chapter 5. Train your focus to stay on what matters. In a world that constantly demands your attention, the ability to focus on what truly matters is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. Distractions surround you every minute. Messages, opinions, notifications, and noise trying to pull your mind in 100 directions. But life is not about how many things you can respond to. It's about the depth you bring to the things that count. Your growth, your peace, your goals, your family, your health, your values. These are the things that deserve your full attention. Everything else is background noise. Training your focus is not a natural gift. It is a daily practice. You don't wake up with it. You have to build it. And it begins with clarity. You cannot focus on what matters if you don't first define what matters. So take the time to get honest with yourself. What do you actually want to improve in your life? What kind of person do you want to become? What are the actions that move you closer to that version of yourself? The clearer you are, the easier it becomes to filter out everything that doesn't align. Focus begins where clarity lives. When your mind is scattered, your time follows. When your purpose is vague, your energy leaks. That's why you must be ruthless about your priorities. Not everything that feels urgent is important. Not every opportunity deserves your attention. Not every voice deserves space in your head. You must choose wisely where your energy goes, because your future depends on it. It's not a dramatic decision, it's a quiet discipline, And that discipline is what sets achievers apart from the distracted majority. Most people spend their days reacting instead of choosing. They open their phones before they open their eyes fully. They scroll before they reflect. They compare before they create. And by the time the day starts, their mind is already scattered. Focus requires that you reverse that pattern. You need to take back the first moments of your day and direct your mind instead of letting the world do it for you. That one change, starting your day with intention, can shift your entire focus over time. Every time you choose to give your attention to something meaningless, you are robbing something meaningful. Time and focus are connected. One always flows to the other. If you want to train your focus, you must protect your time. That means setting boundaries. That means saying no, often without explanation. That means letting people down when their needs conflict with your purpose. It might not feel easy at first, but the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes to guard your attention like it's gold, because it is. Focus also lives in your environment. If your space is chaotic, your mind becomes heavy. If your surroundings are cluttered, your thoughts become blurred. That's why physical order supports mental clarity. A clean desk, a quiet room, a space with no distractions. It helps you return your mind to what matters. You don't need perfection, but you do need simplicity. The less your brain has to manage, the more energy it has to concentrate. Creating that space is not a luxury. It's a strategy for growth. Another part of focus is learning how to deal with interruptions, internally and externally. Sometimes the distraction doesn't come from outside. It comes from inside your own thoughts. Doubt, fear, impatience, these are mental habits that pull your attention away from progress. You must train yourself to notice when your mind drifts and gently bring it back. You don't need to fight your thoughts, you just need to guide them. Over time, your brain learns to stay with the task longer, go deeper, and recover faster from distraction. One powerful method to strengthen your focus is setting small blocks of uninterrupted time. Pick one task that matters and give it your full presence for a short period, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you can manage. Turn off notifications, close tabs, eliminate noise, focus on that one thing until time is up. You will notice how productive and clear your thinking becomes when it isn't being pulled in 5 different directions. Repeat this daily. It's how you train your attention like a muscle. You also need to stop giving energy to things you cannot control. Worry, gossip, anger over things far beyond your reach. These distractions feel emotionally justified but do nothing to help you grow. They steal your mental space. They delay your progress. You must learn to release them. Focus means staying close to what you can change. That's where your power lives. When your attention rests on the things within your control, your life begins to reflect calm, effort, and forward motion. You will also need to limit how often you multitask. It may feel like you are being efficient, but switching between tasks reduces the depth of your work. You produce lower quality and feel more drained. Your brain works best when it gives full attention to one thing at a time. Whether you're having a conversation, writing, working, or planning, give it your full focus. Presence is a form of respect. Respect the moment, and the moment will reward you. Part of staying focused is understanding that not everything deserves an immediate response. Train yourself to pause. Let your thoughts settle before reacting. Let messages wait when they aren't urgent. Let people adjust to your boundaries. Slowing down is not laziness, it's wisdom. It helps you think clearly, speak with purpose, and act with intention. Constant stimulation is not a badge of honor. Calm focus is a more powerful and sustainable way to move through life. People who stay focused are not superhuman. They are simply more aware of their choices. They take full responsibility for their time, thoughts, and priorities. They don't allow the loudest voice in the room to decide what they care about. They choose, they adjust, they protect. They say, this is what matters, and this is where I will stay. You can become that person too, but only through practice. Some days you will slip. Some days your mind will wander more than you like. Don't punish yourself. Just return to your focus, again and again. That repetition is where growth happens. The more you return, the faster you recover. Over time, distractions lose their grip on you. Your mind becomes clearer, your life becomes simpler, and your results begin to multiply. When you choose to train your focus, you are choosing depth over noise. You are choosing meaning over distraction. You are choosing to move in the direction of your vision, one quiet, powerful decision at a time. And those choices made daily lead to the kind of life that doesn't just look good from the outside, but feels right from within. Stay with what matters. Let everything else go. Chapter 6. Surround yourself with people who lift you. The people you choose to keep close have the power to shape your thoughts, your energy, and the direction of your life. They influence how you see yourself and how you respond to the world. Whether you realize it or not, the company you keep is either building you up or wearing you down. It is either helping you grow stronger or pulling you further away from your potential. That's why one of the most important decisions you can make for your well-being, your progress, and your peace is to surround yourself with people who lift you. This doesn't mean chasing perfect people. It means being intentional about choosing those who bring out the best in you, not the worst. People who encourage your growth instead of fearing it. People who believe in your goals instead of mocking them. People who celebrate your wins without resentment and sit with you through your losses without judgment. The quality of your relationships is a mirror of your standards. When your standards rise, so does the strength of your circle. There's a quiet strength that comes from being around individuals who have emotional maturity. They don't thrive on chaos. They don't compete with you. They don't need you to shrink so they can shine. They know who they are, and because of that, they're not threatened by your growth. These are the people who listen without trying to fix you, support without controlling, and inspire without preaching. Their presence calms your mind and lifts your spirit. Being around them reminds you of who you're capable of becoming. If you constantly feel drained after spending time with someone, pay attention. That's your spirit signaling a misalignment. Relationships aren't supposed to exhaust you. They're meant to replenish you, challenge you, and make you feel more alive, not less. If the majority of your interactions revolve around negativity, gossip, comparison, or conflict, it's a warning. No matter how long you've known someone, you owe it to yourself to evaluate whether their presence is helping you grow or keeping you small. You are not responsible for fixing toxic people. You are not obligated to stay in one-sided relationships. You are allowed to outgrow people who are committed to staying the same. Growth is not betrayal. Choosing peace is not selfish. You're not walking away from others. You're walking toward your better self. And that journey demands that you let go of anything or anyone that no longer aligns with your values, your vision, or your truth. Lifting relationships are built on honesty, not flattery. Real friends don't just tell you what you want to hear. They tell you what you need to know. They don't inflate your ego. They hold up a mirror. They call you higher, not out of judgment, but because they see something more in you. They challenge your excuses. They hold you accountable. They remind you that your standards matter. These relationships may not always be comfortable, but they are always constructive. You must also become someone who lifts others. This isn't about expecting others to carry your weight. It's about creating an environment of mutual support. Ask yourself what energy you bring into a room. Are you quick to judge or quick to understand? Do you listen with your whole attention or only to respond? Do you encourage or criticize more often? Every interaction you have is either helping someone rise or making it harder for them to move forward. Be someone who lightens the emotional load, not adds to it. Not every supportive relationship will look the same. Some people will offer emotional presence, others will offer wisdom. Some will challenge you to aim higher, others will remind you to slow down and breathe. What matters is not how someone supports you, but whether their presence makes you feel more aligned with your true self. You don't need many people, you just need the right ones. Depth matters more than quantity. It takes courage to be selective with your circle, especially when you've built your identity around pleasing others or maintaining long histories. But time alone doesn't make a relationship healthy. If someone no longer respects your boundaries, supports your growth, or brings joy into your life, it's okay to loosen your attachment. You can care about someone and still realize that your path requires distance. Closure doesn't always come with conflict. Sometimes it comes with quiet clarity. You also need to pay attention to what kind of conversations dominate your life. Are they full of possibilities, learning, ideas, and personal growth? Or are they filled with drama, blame, judgment, and surface-level topics? The quality of your thoughts often reflects the conversations you expose yourself to. If you want to think better, speak better, and live better, start by shifting who you spend your time talking to. There's nothing noble about enduring relationships that stunt your spirit. Loyalty is not about staying where you suffer. It's about staying true to your values, even when that means walking a lonely path for a while. And yes, sometimes the decision to create distance will leave you feeling misunderstood. That's okay. Not everyone needs to understand your journey. You're not doing it for validation. You're doing it because your life deserves to be lived in truth. Creating a strong support system also means being willing to ask for help when needed. Too often, people struggle in silence because they believe needing support is weakness. But real strength is knowing when to lean on someone, letting yourself be seen, letting yourself receive. The right people won't see your vulnerability as a burden. They'll see it as an opportunity to love you more deeply. Relationships built on mutual openness grow stronger with time. And sometimes the people who lift you the most aren't even in your current environment. They're in books, podcasts, communities you haven't joined yet, mentors you haven't met. Keep seeking them. Keep exposing yourself to perspectives that expand you. Keep learning from those who've walked paths you admire. Inspiration doesn't always come through friendships. It often comes through proximity to better thinking. Let yourself be influenced by excellence. Your environment either supports your future or sabotages it. Every person you allow close to you is shaping the emotional and mental climate of your life. So choose wisely. Choose people who believe in vision. Choose people who value growth. Choose people who want more than comfort and are willing to walk the hard road with you. You deserve to be surrounded by those who remind you of your strength when you forget it, who stand with you in silence when words aren't enough, and who celebrate your progress even when it's slow. As you begin to choose your circle with more intention, your life starts to reflect that shift. You think clearer, you move lighter, you dream bigger, you feel less alone. And most importantly, you begin to realize that you were never meant to do this life surrounded by noise and weight. You were meant to grow beside people who help you rise. Chapter 7. Turn every failure into your next strong step. Failure carries a sting that no one escapes. It can crush confidence, stall progress, and cast doubt over everything once believed possible. But for those who rise from it with intention, it becomes more than just a painful experience. It becomes a moment of redefinition. It becomes proof that something greater is being built, not in spite of the struggle, but because of it. Each setback, when approached with clarity and humility, offers tools the smooth moments never will. It strips away illusions, exposes weaknesses, and demands the kind of honesty that forces growth. The choice isn't whether failure will come, it's what to do when it does. The first instinct after falling short is often to retreat. The mind fills with judgments, and the inner voice becomes loud with blame. But in those quiet, defeated moments lies the start of something deeper than success, understanding. You begin to see where you were chasing the wrong things, where you moved without direction, where your assumptions were louder than your awareness. This is where wisdom takes root. Not from always being right, but from recognizing where you weren't and choosing differently next time. Progress never demands perfection, it demands movement. And sometimes that movement is forward, through uncertainty. Sometimes it's upward through difficulty. Sometimes it's simply not quitting. Failure is not the opposite of winning, it's the raw material that makes winning meaningful. It's what humbles the ego and tests the vision. It asks a single question: are you willing to keep going when comfort is no longer available? There is no shortcut to building something that lasts. Anything worth having will test your limits. The people who build great lives don't do so because they never stumble. They do so because they learn faster. They take the broken pieces and create something more stable. They take feedback and apply it. They reflect instead of deflect. That's what makes a person unshakable, not the absence of mistakes, but the refusal to be defined by those. Look back on any achievement that mattered, and you'll find moments of struggle behind it. The breakthrough is always built on the breakdown. Growth is built on missteps. Strength is built on recovery. If you failed, it means you were trying. It means you were willing to risk discomfort for something you cared about. That's not weakness. That's the beginning of mastery. To turn a failure into a strong step, you must first step back. Reflect, not react. Ask yourself what truly went wrong, not what you wish had gone differently, but what your part in it was. What assumption did you make? What habit undermined your effort? What distraction pulled you off course? Most failures don't happen overnight. They build slowly from neglected details, ignored warnings, and small daily choices. See those clearly, and you gain control over what happens next. Blame is the easiest path after falling short, but it leads nowhere. As long as you point outward, you hand away the power to improve. The strongest step you can take after a failure is to own your part fully, without shame. Not because you enjoy pain, but because you value growth. Growth can't happen where excuses live. It begins where ownership begins. And once you take ownership, you're no longer a victim of circumstance. You're an active participant in your comeback. Failures are often disguised tests of belief. When things fall apart, it forces you to decide whether you really want what you said you did. If the answer is yes, the next move is simple: get up and go again. Not because it's easy, not because you feel ready, but because your vision still matters, even when it's bruised. Even when the path forward is unclear, there's power in the decision to show up again. When failure strikes, it can shrink your world. It narrows your focus until all you see is what didn't work. But life isn't measured by one moment. One mistake, no matter how large, does not define your value. The only thing it reveals is the next area to improve. That shift in mindset, from judging to learning, is the difference between staying stuck and building momentum. One keeps you in regret, the other pulls you into responsibility. The most important habit you can build after failing is to keep showing up. Momentum doesn't come from intensity, it comes from consistency. Keep learning, keep improving, keep doing the small things that matter. Success often arrives quietly, on the heels of days that felt unimportant. You won't always see progress, you won't always feel better right away. But if you stay focused on the process, the results will come. You also must speak differently about failure. If you call yourself names, label yourself as broken, or say you'll never succeed, your identity becomes tied to loss. And when identity locks onto failure, growth becomes nearly impossible. You have to speak from the perspective of a builder, not a victim. Say things like, "I'm learning, I'm adjusting, I'm not finished." Those words reshape your mindset and build a mental foundation of resilience. It's also vital to remember that failing in one area doesn't mean your whole life is failing. You can fail at a business and still be a person of discipline. You can fail in a relationship and still carry deep value. You can fail at reaching a goal and still be on the path of strength. Don't collapse your entire identity around a single result. Separate the outcome from your worth. The person you are becoming is far more important than the mistake you made. The next time you fall, notice your first thought. That single moment contains a choice. Will you spiral or will you pause? Will you shut down or take one clear action? Often the best thing to do after a fall is not to fix everything at once. Just move one step forward. Send the email, reflect in your journal, take a walk to clear your head. That small action reminds your brain that failure is not the end. It's a signal to adjust and begin again. What makes failure powerful is not just the lesson, it's the strength you build by standing back up. That mental toughness becomes your edge. It makes you less afraid to try next time. It sharpens your focus and deepens your humility. The more you learn to rise, the less hold fear has over you. That's how confidence is truly built, not from praise, but from practice under pressure. And while no one welcomes failure, when it comes, it gives you something most people never receive: clarity. It removes illusion. It humbles you. It forces patience. It develops character. Most importantly, it teaches you that you can survive disappointment, and not only survive, but grow from it. One day you will look back and realize the moments you thought were your lowest were actually turning points. Not because they felt good, but because they built something in you that easy moments never could. They made you more grounded, more prepared, more aware. That's how failure becomes fuel. When you use it right, it doesn't weaken you. It becomes the fire that strengthens your next step. Chapter 8. Act with discipline, even when motivation fades. The real work begins when the excitement disappears, when the plan no longer feels fresh, and the energy that once carried you forward is nowhere to be found. That's when you meet the truth of what you're made of. Discipline is not built in inspiration, it's built in repetition. It grows in the quiet, often boring spaces where no one is clapping and nothing feels urgent. It's the act of showing up when you'd rather wait. It's the commitment to movement when your feelings pull you towards stillness. That's where strength forms, not in the fire of motivation, but in the cold of routine. Anyone can act when they're inspired. Anyone can work hard when the path feels clear. The question is, what happens when that spark dies out? What happens when the mood fades, when the goal seems far, when the wins feel delayed? That's when most people hesitate, waiting for the feeling to return. But the few who succeed don't wait, they act. They don't need their emotions to cooperate. They rely on structure, not impulse. That's what separates those who reach their potential from those who coast on short bursts of energy. You don't need to feel good to do what's necessary. That's a lie we tell ourselves to delay the work. We wait for clarity. We wait for energy. We wait for alignment. But growth doesn't come from waiting. Growth comes from following through, even when your interest has shifted. Discipline is the promise you keep to yourself long after the mood in which you made it has gone. There will be mornings you wake up and don't care, evenings when everything feels pointless, days when your mind says it doesn't matter anymore. In those moments, your decision matters most, because it's not about being excited, it's about being responsible, not in a heavy, burdensome way, but in a focused, intentional one. The path forward will always reward those who take consistent steps, not just the bold ones taken once in a while. Discipline builds something motivation never can: reliability. When you train yourself to act regardless of how you feel, you become someone you can trust. Your word starts to mean something, not just to others, but to yourself. You begin to respect your time. You start making choices that serve your future instead of pleasing your current mood. That's how self-respect is formed, not from positive affirmations, but from behavior that aligns with your values day after day. Waiting to feel ready is a trap. Feelings are temporary. Discipline is permanent. You don't need to argue with your emotions. You just need to act in spite of them. You don't need to fix your mood before you start. You just need to begin. The moment you start moving, even a little, the resistance loses power. It's often not the task that's hard, it's the hesitation. The mental dance of deciding whether or not to begin drains more energy than doing the thing itself. Some of the most important progress you'll make will happen on the days you didn't want to do anything at all, because those are the days you prove to yourself that your actions aren't tied to how you feel. Those are the days your foundation deepens. It doesn't always look impressive. Sometimes it's just sending the message, taking the walk, finishing the writing, showing up to the routine. It may not look like a breakthrough, but it is one. Because every time you follow through in low energy, you strengthen the muscle of discipline, and that muscle is what carries you forward when the path gets steep. Discipline is also clarity. When you decide ahead of time what matters and commit to it, you eliminate decision fatigue. You don't wake up each day wondering what to do. You already know you've already chosen. That's freedom, not being controlled by your mood, but being guided by your vision. People think freedom is doing what you want, but true freedom is doing what's needed, even when you don't want to. That's how you create a life of integrity. Every action you take trains your identity. When you skip the work, you teach yourself that quitting is acceptable. When you follow through, you reinforce the belief that you're someone who shows up. Your identity is not fixed, it's formed through behavior. And the more you act in alignment with who you want to become, the faster you become that person. You don't change by thinking differently. You change by behaving differently, again and again, until it's automatic. You can build structure that supports you on the hard days. Set up your environment so the right choice is easy to make. Simplify your routines. Reduce distractions. Schedule the hard things when you have the most focus. Make it harder to choose comfort over progress. Discipline isn't about forcing yourself. It's about making it easier to follow through. Willpower is limited, structure is renewable. Stop chasing motivation, build systems, build momentum, build habits, because when discipline becomes part of your rhythm, you no longer need to search for inspiration. It finds you in motion, it greets you after the work is done, and it rewards you not with a rush of excitement, but with quiet confidence. A sense of knowing that you're in control of your direction, regardless of how you felt today. You also learn to stop negotiating with yourself. If it's on the schedule, it gets done. You stop asking whether you feel like it. You stop debating with the part of your mind that wants to delay. You move without question. That may sound rigid, but it creates inner peace, because you're no longer torn between what you know you need to do and what you feel like doing. That mental tug-of-war disappears. And when people see your consistency, they'll think you're lucky. They'll think you have something they don't, but you'll know the truth. You'll know that you just did what needed to be done when no one was watching. You didn't rise because of some big moment. You rose because you didn't fall for the lie that motivation is everything. You rose because you acted when it was inconvenient, when it was boring, when it was uncomfortable. You don't need massive motivation to reach your goals. You just need one clear reason that matters deeply to you. One reason strong enough to move you forward even when the path is dark. Keep that reason close. Write it down. Read it when your energy fades. Let it guide your steps, not your mood. You're not supposed to feel amazing every day. You're supposed to stay committed to what matters, even when it's quiet, even when it's lonely, even when no one notices. Eventually, discipline becomes your default. You don't force it anymore. You live it. That's when the results begin to compound. Not just in what you achieve, but in who you become. You become dependable, grounded, resilient, and no moment of lost motivation can take that from you. Because you've trained yourself to act anyway, you've built a rhythm that doesn't need permission from your emotions. Discipline isn't glamorous. It won't always feel heroic, but it will build a life that reflects your values. It will separate you from the crowd, and it will carry you further than any fleeting burst of excitement ever could. When others stop, you'll keep moving, not because it's easy, but because it's who you are now. Chapter 9. Push beyond fear by taking daily small risks. Fear doesn't disappear by thinking about it. It doesn't dissolve because you understand it. Fear loses its grip only when you face it, not with grand gestures, but through repeated small steps. Each time you take an action that makes you slightly uncomfortable, you stretch the edges of what you believe you can handle. That's how courage is built, not in one bold act, but in the quiet pattern of doing what scares you, a little at a time, over and over again. The voice of fear is always loudest before movement. It tells you you're not ready. It warns you of failure. It urges you to wait, to prepare more, to avoid the unknown. But that voice weakens every time you respond with action. Even a small risk, like speaking up in a room where you usually stay quiet, or reaching out to someone you've been hesitant to contact, teaches your brain that you can handle discomfort, that you can survive tension, that you don't need to feel safe to move forward. No one escapes fear. Even those who seem fearless feel it. The difference is they don't let it decide their actions. They know that fear is not a signal to stop. It's a signal that growth is nearby. They've learned to treat that anxious feeling as a cue, not a command. You don't have to eliminate fear to make progress. You just need to train yourself to act with it still present. That's the practice. That's the power. Taking small risks each day rewires your sense of identity. It gradually transforms the way you see yourself. You stop identifying as someone who avoids, hesitates, or overthinks. Instead, you begin to see yourself as someone who confronts challenge, who walks toward discomfort instead of away from it. The risk doesn't have to be massive. It just has to be real. The moment you feel the internal pull to hold back, that's the moment to lean forward, even just a little. Growth doesn't come from staying in what's familiar. If you keep choosing comfort, you'll keep reinforcing fear. But if you make it a habit to take small, deliberate risks every single day, you build a version of yourself that becomes increasingly difficult to intimidate. That's how fear shrinks, not by hiding from it, but by proving you can live through it, again and again, quietly, privately, until what used to scare you becomes ordinary. It's not about recklessness. It's not about seeking danger or drama. It's about choosing to do the thing you would normally avoid, the call you'd put off, the conversation you'd dodge, the opportunity you'd decline. Each time you step into that discomfort, you chip away at the illusion that fear is in control. Because fear thrives in avoidance, it grows stronger the longer you wait, but it fades when you act, especially when you act consistently, without waiting for courage to magically appear. If you wait to feel ready, you'll wait forever. Readiness doesn't come before the risk, it comes after you take it. Confidence isn't a requirement, it's a reward. You become more confident by doing the very thing that frightens you, not all at once, but gradually, by stacking small acts of bravery that compound over time, and those small acts begin to add up. You may not notice the shift immediately, but one day you'll realize you no longer hesitate in the same places. You'll realize you're not the same person who once felt paralyzed by self-doubt. The risks that change you most are often invisible to others. They happen in quiet moments, behind closed doors, when no one is watching. They may look insignificant to someone else, but to you, they're everything. Sending that email, asking that question, admitting that truth, applying for that role, these things seem small, but they carry weight. They carry transformation. Every time you lean into one of these moments, you rewrite your story just a little. Taking daily risks doesn't mean living in constant tension. It means embracing a lifestyle of gentle challenge. You create a rhythm where growth is part of your day, not forced, not dramatic, but intentional. You get used to doing hard things, not because you enjoy fear, but because you're committed to freedom. And the only way to gain freedom from fear is to stop obeying it. When fear says don't try, you try anyway. When fear says you'll fail, you remind yourself that failure is part of growth. And when fear says wait, you choose to move forward now. Most people overestimate what they need to do to overcome fear. They think they need a breakthrough, a transformation, a single life-changing decision. But the truth is, you don't need a breakthrough, you need a pattern. You need a pattern of showing up, of facing small edges of resistance every single day. Those edges become your training ground. The places you once avoided become the places where you sharpen your courage. And over time, fear has fewer places to hide. You'll still feel fear. It never vanishes, but it loses its authority. It becomes background noise, something you hear but no longer follow. And in its place, something else grows. Trust. Trust in your ability to navigate risk. Trust in your own capacity to recover, to adapt, to improve. That's how fear turns from an obstacle into an ally. Not because you silence it, but because you stop needing its permission. The fear of judgment, the fear of rejection, the fear of failure. These all begin to dissolve when you realize you can handle them. The human mind overestimates threat and underestimates its own resilience. The only way to correct that is by stepping into the experience. You won't think your way out of fear, you'll only act your way through it. And once you've done that enough times, fear becomes familiar. And once it becomes familiar, it loses its power to dictate your direction. You are capable of taking more risk than you believe. Not foolish risk, but meaningful risk. The kind that pulls you forward, stretches you, forces you to grow. And once you commit to taking those risks daily, you begin to live differently. You stop shrinking yourself to fit your fears. You stop delaying your future to protect your comfort. You begin to walk with a steady kind of boldness, not because you're fearless, but because you've practiced courage in small, quiet ways for so long that it's become part of who you are. And when others ask you how you became so confident, you'll know the truth. It didn't happen all at once. It wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. It was the result of doing one brave thing a day, one moment of discomfort at a time, one step into uncertainty, again and again. That's how fear loses. That's how growth wins. Chapter 10. Live each day with purpose and clear action. Each morning offers a fresh page to write on, yet so often the hours slip away without intention. To live a day with purpose is to choose clarity over chaos, direction over drift. Purpose brings a sharpness to your steps. It gives meaning to the smallest actions. It transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, because when you know why you move, each moment matters. This clarity isn't something reserved for monumental occasions. It's something that can be embraced every single day, in every small choice and task. Purpose without action is empty. It's a concept that floats but never lands. The link between knowing what matters and doing what matters is the foundation of progress. Purpose is the compass, but action is the path. Without action, your purpose remains a distant dream, a wish that fades as distractions crowd in. Every purposeful day demands clear action. Not vague intentions or broad goals, but specific steps you can take now. These steps ground purpose in reality and build momentum. Living with purpose means starting the day by asking, what will I accomplish that aligns with what truly matters to me? This question sharpens focus and pushes aside the noise. It eliminates busy work and opens space for what matters. It allows you to invest energy in what advances your values and goals. Without this question, days tend to become reactive rather than proactive. They become shaped by external demands and interruptions rather than by your own deliberate choices. Purpose connects you deeply to your why. It answers the question beneath all others: why does this matter to me? When your actions are rooted in purpose, even the toughest tasks become bearable because you understand their place in a larger story. Purpose fuels resilience. It helps you keep moving when motivation wanes and distractions call. This is not an abstract idea, it's a practical mindset that shifts how you approach your daily rhythm. Clear action requires more than just willpower. It needs structure. Setting priorities is essential. Not every task deserves equal energy. To live each day with purpose, discernment must guide where you put your time and focus. Identify the few critical actions that will move you toward your goals. Focus on these with intensity. Guard against the temptation to multitask or chase every small task. The power lies in concentrating on what makes a real difference. The discipline to act with clarity means setting boundaries, not just around others, but around yourself. Saying no to distractions, saying no to unnecessary commitments, and saying no to thoughts that derail your focus are vital skills. Purpose-driven living is a form of self-respect. It acknowledges your limited time and energy as precious resources to be protected. Each refusal carves out room for what truly matters. Intentional action also means breaking big goals into manageable pieces. When purpose feels overwhelming, it's easy to freeze, but the clarity of small, achievable steps breaks that paralysis. Progress builds momentum and confidence. It turns vague ambition into real change. When you complete each small task, you reinforce your belief in your ability to follow through. Purpose becomes a daily habit rather than a distant ideal. Living purposefully means embracing presence. It means committing to each moment fully, even when it's mundane. Whether you are writing, cleaning, talking, or resting, engage with attention and intention. This mindful approach transforms routine activities into acts of purpose. It brings depth to your experience and makes every hour count. The quality of your attention defines the quality of your life. Purpose also involves reflection. At the end of each day, pause to review what you did and how it aligns with your goals. This practice keeps you honest and focused. It helps identify what worked and what distracted. Reflection is not about judgment, but about learning. It is a tool to sharpen your next day's purpose and action. Without reflection, it's easy to fall back into aimless habits. Your daily purpose should be flexible, not rigid. Life is unpredictable, and plans will change. Adaptation does not mean abandoning purpose. It means adjusting your actions while holding the bigger picture steady. This balance between firmness in your why and flexibility in your how builds resilience. It keeps you moving forward even when circumstances shift unexpectedly. The foundation of purposeful living is self-awareness. Knowing your values, your strengths, and your priorities gives your actions meaning. Without this knowledge, it's easy to drift. You become reactive to what others want or what seems urgent but unimportant. Self-awareness roots your purpose in authenticity. It ensures that your actions align with who you really are and what you truly want. Living each day with purpose changes how you view obstacles. Challenges become opportunities to learn rather than threats to your peace. Purpose reframes difficulty as part of the journey rather than a dead end. This mindset reduces frustration and keeps you motivated. It makes persistence possible because every setback is a step, not a stop. The power of purpose extends beyond personal achievement. When your days are aligned with a clear purpose, you also contribute more to those around you. Purpose gives your work and relationships greater meaning. It inspires others by example. Your consistent action, rooted in purpose, becomes a quiet force that influences your environment. This ripple effect spreads far beyond what you see immediately. Living purposefully is not about perfection, it is about intention and effort. There will be days when focus falters and distractions win. What matters is the commitment to return, to realign, to continue. Purpose is a lifelong practice, not a one-time decision. Each day is a new chance to choose clarity and action over confusion and inaction. At the core, purpose is a statement of self-mastery. It is the refusal to be a passive observer in your own life. It is a declaration that your time, your energy, and your actions are valuable. This mindset shifts your role from reacting to events to shaping them. It places you firmly in the driver's seat of your life's journey. Clear action rooted in purpose builds confidence. The more you act with intention, the more trust you develop in your own abilities. This trust fuels further action and deepens your sense of control. Purpose becomes a cycle of growth, where each day's efforts compound into meaningful progress. Purpose also guards against burnout. When your actions are tied to what matters most, exhaustion is less likely to feel like defeat. Instead, it is a signal to pause and realign. Purpose provides a framework for balancing effort and rest, work and renewal. It helps sustain energy over the long haul. Living each day with purpose means embracing responsibility for your choices. It means acknowledging that you are the architect of your experience. This perspective removes blame and victimhood. It empowers you to change what can be changed and accept what cannot. It cultivates peace amid uncertainty and control amid chaos. Ultimately, purpose invites you to live fully awake. It calls for clarity in why you move and courage in how you act. It transforms the ordinary into a meaningful pursuit. When purpose and clear action guide your days, you build a life defined not by circumstance but by conscious choice. This is the foundation of true fulfillment and lasting success.